What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the interweb? So this video, two topics. First off, Resident Evil 4 Remake will not follow the original story. It's going to be loosely related to the same story, but not exactly the entire story. Capcom announced that last night. I said in my video yesterday that I kind of feel like that was going to end up happening. I wasn't exactly excited at the moment for it, at the time I guess, but now after thinking about it, I kind of feel like that's what Resident Evil needs. Village was so out of left field, Resident Evil 7 so out of left field, and we know from a long time ago, they said that the original Resident Evil 2 and 3 are no longer canon. And Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake are the new canon, and they changed quite a bit. So I'm going to assume moving forward that Resident Evil 4 Remake is obviously going to change a lot, they already said it, but then in a couple years when they remake Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6, that they're probably going to change a whole lot with those stories too, to feed more into Resident Evil 7 and 8 in order to have a much more linear and coexisting story, because right now it's kind of all over the place. So I can definitely understand why they're doing that. We also got new screenshots of Resident Evil 4 Remake shown. We have the village. The village looks menacing. It looks like someone's being burned at the stake, and it kind of seems like that could be, you know, a new bioweapon they could add to the game. Everything's changing. We obviously have no idea what's going to be new. So imagine a fire demon bioweapon inside each little village cluster of Resident Evil 4, the remake. That could be horrifying. It kind of looks like the way the tower is set up, that we could potentially see a puzzle inside there. The church looks a little bit smaller, but it looks much more Spanish, and since we are in Spain for this game, it makes a lot more sense the way it is. Just looking at the wood and everything being deteriorated and destroyed, you can definitely see that the Plaga has taken over, and it's a lot more menacing than the original Resident Evil 4. Obviously, the new hardware is going to make that easier to come off that way, but just looking at this, it's definitely something for us to be excited about. Next up, we have the kitchen. I'm not sure where in the game this would be taking place at. It might be in the very beginning when Leon enters the house and the man throws the hatchet at him, and then instead of being a cop and shooting him, he just runs away, which actually, in regards to most recent events in the United States, that's probably more like a cop than actually doing cop stuff. So actually maybe he is going full on cop and just running away at this point. But either way, this looks really cool. There's a lot of detail here. The ray tracing looks good. I'm kind of interested in exploring this entire world. I know it's going to be third person, which is great, but I'm sure we're going to get a PlayStation VR version of it as well. So that's going to be even more interesting to play through and see. I kind of feel like Resident Evil 4 VR, the one that just came out on the Oculus, was kind of a test for this and just to prepare for it. But either way, this looks interesting. We also got our first look at Ashley. I don't know how I feel about her look. She doesn't really look like a teenager anymore. She kind of looks like she's like early 20s, late teens, and I don't really know how I feel about that, but they're changing, you know, 10 million different things. So maybe at the end of the day, it makes sense, but maybe at the same time it doesn't. I guess we'll have to see how it plays out. Either way, hopefully she's not annoying like she was in the original. And then ultimately we have the sigil. The sigil looks much more rustic and archaic than it did in Resident Evil 4 Remake. I feel like because of the hardware change and the just difference in technology in the last 20 years, that they're going to be able to make this castle and everything look much more like a 1,000-year-old, you know, Inquisitor house than it, or Inquisitor castle, than it is in the original Resident Evil 4. There's so much more technology you can do now than it was back then. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen of the interweb, that has been our first, well actually our second look and our story details of Resident Evil 4 Remake. What do you think? Are you excited? Does that make you worried? I'm personally kind of excited, kind of worried, not really, you know, knowing how to feel yet, but I'm gonna roll with the punches and see what happens. So with that being said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, try not to die, and we'll see you in the next video.